The Deceased, written in 1940 by Keith Douglas, 1920 to 1944. He was a reprobate, I grant, and always liquored till his money went. His hair depended on a noose from his pale brow, his eyes were dumb. Like prisoners in their cavernous slots, were settled in attitudes of despair. You who, God bless you, never sunk so low, censure and pray for him that he was so. And with his failings you regret the verses, the fellow made proberly between the curses. Proberly in the extremes of moral decay, but he wrote them in a sincere way, and seems to have felt a sort of pain to which your imagination cannot attain. So this poem is by Keith Douglas. He came from Tunbridge Wells. He's a war poet from the Second World War, carrying on in the vein of the war poets from the First World War. And very sadly, he was killed during the invasion of Normandy in June 1944. So another war poet who died young. Okay, what's the poem about? It's about somebody who has died. I get the feeling this is somebody who has died in the war, but the poem does not define the conditions of his death, what happened. It's a lament for this person. It's a lament for the loss of this person. I think it's almost this idea of no man is an island because the death of each man diminishes me. And I think that this is the idea, that he might not have been perfect, this man, but we should lament his death and lament his going, because it diminishes us all. So he was a reprobate, I grant. So he wasn't a good person. He used to do all sorts of rather terrible things. Yeah, he wasn't bad, but he was probably drunk and went on and doing all sorts of things. And always liquored till his money went. So he always drank, alcohol until he didn't have any money left. Notice the incorrect spelling of liquored, and I think there are various incorrect spellings in this to give you an idea that this person who has died, he wasn't an educated man, he wasn't somebody who had been to a great school. He wasn't an intellectual, but that doesn't matter. That's not a reason not to lament his passing. His hair depended on a noose from his pale brow. His eyes were dumb. I think here we're using this depended. He's using this to mean hung down. So I think there's like a line, round his head, and the hair hangs down from his pale brow. And his eyes were dumb, so his eyes didn't say anything. His eyes were quiet. Like prisoners in their cavernous slot, were settled in attitudes of despair. So his eyes were like prisoners in their jail cells, their cavernous slots, the caverns of their eyes. And they were settled. They had an attitude of despair. So this is a very nice simile about his eyes, and I think maybe it's talking about the despair that this person felt. You who, God bless you, never sunk so low, censure and pray for him that he was so low. So you, the rest of you who've never been in such difficult circumstances, your life has never sunk so far down. and you criticize him, you censure him for being so low, and you pray for him. Yeah, you really ought to pray for him. You ought to regret that his life was like that, that his life was in a way like that. And with his failings, you regret the verses the fellow made proberly between curses. So you regret the verses, the things that you said, yeah, about this man, about his failings, about his mistakes. But we all have mistakes. None of us are perfect, yeah. And you regret saying bad things about him, yeah, between the curses, between the times that you criticized him. I think proberly, probably, yeah, probably, I think this probably should say, proberly in the extremes of moral decay, but he wrote them in a sincere way. So I think also you regret the verses the fellow made. So you regret the things that he said, yeah, and he made them in his extreme of moral decay, in his awful position. But he was sincere about them. He wrote them, and he told the truth. And it's very clear that he felt a pain. He felt a sadness which your imagination cannot attain. His life was so sad that you cannot imagine the pain that this man felt, that how difficult his life was, how problematic it had been. So, enough. If you enjoyed the video, give it a rating, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you soon. Bye for now. The Deceased by Keith Douglas, 1920 to 1944.